Morning folks, I'm Dave Canterbury with Self-Reliance Outfitters in the Pathfinder School. I'm down here at the Pathfinder outdoor classroom area in a spot where we do a lot of shelter demos, things like that. I've got the backwoods bungalow set up here and I dropped the flap on it this morning because it was kind of windy right here and it was kind of blowing it around and flapping a little bit and I didn't want the noise on video. I'm shooting a video right now on cooking, and while I'm waiting on that to happen and I'm kind of in between things, I thought I would segue away from that for a minute to give you another video on what I consider the 5 most important base camp tools. Okay, this is 5 things that I wouldn't do without if I had the luxury of conveyance for a base camp, whether that be a canoe, a four-wheeler, a side-by-side, a horse, a sled, a snowmobile, whatever the case may be. These 5 tools I would not want to do without. So I thought I'd walk through them with you today, and brands aren't necessarily important. What's important is the quality of the item and how well it works for you. But these 5 items have always been good to me, and they've always done what I want them to do, and I've never wanted for some other tool that I didn't have in a base camp scenario. Now there's lots of smaller peripheral tools you could add to a kit, and there's plenty of discussion on that in books as well as in Bushcraft 101. If you're going to stay in a base camp for a long period of time. But even for a deer camp of a few days to a week, there are 5 tools that I find very indispensable. The first one is a good pair of leather gloves. Now this is kind of a thing that would go with your clothing most of the time anyway, but I generally carry an extra pair of leather gloves for base camp duty, just around the fire, picking up sticks off the ground, making leaf litter beds, browse beds, things like that. A pair of leather gloves is indispensable for that to protect your hands. In the summertime, you may not be carrying a pair of gloves or wearing a pair like you may be in the winter. So having that spare pair always with you is a good option. A good thick pair of deer skin, elk skin type gloves are going to be your best bet, okay? Right behind me, I have the rest of the items, all right? The number 2 item, and these are not necessarily in order of importance, okay? Okay, so the next item, and these are not in any particular order, just what I grabbed behind me here, is a pair of good heavy fencing pliers. With a pair of fence pliers, I can grab a pot off the fire, I can pound nails, I can pull nails, I can pound fence staples, I can pull fence staples, I can cut wire, I can twist wire. There are lots and lots of things that these pliers will do for you in camp that make them an indispensable item in my mind. Nails and baling wire are 2 things that I always carry in my base camp type kits. Sometimes even in my backpack, I'll carry a shard or a short piece of baling wire wrapped around a stick and a few nails in an old tobacco tin. And that gives you the ability to make a quick hanger for something, put a quick T-bar together for shelter members, things like that with a nail, and they're easy enough to pull when you're done, take them with you and reuse them, whereas cordage may be something you have to cut or that you leave behind or burn, okay? So this stuff is kind of reusable if you take care to do it properly. And you can also leave no trace very easy with that because you can take it with you as well. But I will tell you that it comes in very handy, especially if you're in a hurry to get something done and you don't want to carve a bunch of notches and sticks and things like that. Baling wire is your friend for sure, okay? These are also great for skinning catfish or pulling the hide down when you're processing a deer or other type game because they have jaws in the front of them you can grab that with, okay? There are 101 uses for a pair of these pliers. Now, the next tool would be a buck saw, folding buck saw of some kind. And I say buck saw here versus something like a silky saw because I'm talking about firewood processing. I'm talking about making, short manageable pieces that I can buck down with a saw and then chop them into kindling, fuel, things like that with my axe. So I want a heavy duty buck saw. Now I chose this antique buck saw from the 1940s because I didn't want to favor any particular brand of saw because I work with several different brands in buck saws and I don't consider any of them better than the other. It's just a matter of choice really. You just want a good, sturdy, robust buck saw, and this one fits the bill. It's just a little heavier than the modern designs because it's made of steel and not aluminum. But it's got a lot wider blade than a new modern buck saw does. It's got heavier teeth, gullets, and rakers on it than a modern buck saw does, and it flat cuts the wood. So if you can afford the weight, something like this is always going to be good, all right? Coupled with that, you want a decent axe, okay? Again, brands notwithstanding, buy a quality axe. This one happens to be a Council Tool Woodcraft Pack Axe. It is the only axe that I carry when it comes to a full-size axe, and it does the job every time, all the time, without fail, and it stays razor sharp. I've got a nice heavy leather mask on it to protect it. I've got measurement markers on the handle for things in camp if I'm measuring, or if I need a measurement for a snare loop or something like that. Lots of reasons that these measurement markers come in handy for you in camp, and an easy way to make measurement marks that you can carry with you all the time. I've got videos on all of this stuff from the past, okay? This is the same axe I've been carrying for several years, since the Woodcraft Pack Axe first came out, all right? But minimum 2 pounds, minimum 19 to 20 inch handle, 24 is probably better, and you want a good axe that you can take a good swing with in camp so that you can split heavier pieces of wood if needs be. Now, the last tool I would say is a shovel. This one is a combination shovel and pick. This one is made by Council Tool. This is a forestry tool, a forest firefighting tool that has been cut down from its full-length handle to the size of a military entrenching tool. Again, made in the USA, it's gonna last forever. It's got a pick and it's got a shovel. And it's adjustable just like the old ones were, so that you can use the shovel for a hoe. This thing is indispensable for making fire pits, trenches around tents in rain, things like that. This thing's heavy duty, but it is heavy, right? But again, if I've got the luxury of conveyance, I don't mind the weight, and this thing flat gets the job done. So again, real quick overview of these 5 tools. We have a pair of fencing pliers, a pair of leather gloves, a folding buck saw, a 24-inch 2-pound axe, and an entrenching tool with pick option and adjustable shovel head for angle. Those 5 tools I would consider indispensable in a base camp. All right, guys, listen, I appreciate you joining me for a quick video today on the 5 most important camp tools that you never want to leave without for a base camp scenario. I appreciate your views. I appreciate your support. I thank you for everything you do for our school, for family, and for business. All of our sponsors, instructors, affiliates, and friends. I'll be back with another video as soon as I can, guys. Thanks.